Kunti Devi prays in her prayers to Krishna in first canto, chapter 8, that, my dear Lord, please sever my attachments for the Pandavas and the Vishnus. She had two attachments. From her father's side, she had the attachment to the Vishnu dynasty. And from her husband's side, she had attachment to the Pandava dynasty. So she wanted both the attachments and her life to be severed, so that she would have, her mind would be free to focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, keeping in mind that statement of Dasarath to the sage Vishwamitra, who was a householder. He was married to her. His wife was also. The thing about it is, a lot of times in the Vedas, unless the wife was really, really, really shining, her name was not mentioned sometimes in the Vedas. Like, for example, Atri Muni. He was a great sage, and his wife was Anasuya, and she was very great also. She was so great, indeed, that Lord Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva came personally to their ashram in Chitrakoot, and she personally gave them reception and cooked for them. And at that time, Atri Muni was desirous of having a child, and he asked them, please all of you combine together to become my son. And they did so. And Anga, a ray of all of them, came together and became Atri Muni's son, Dattatreya. And he's a partial expansion of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva as well. And he's a very powerful sage. Mostly, his apparent place, they put it like North Karnataka, Lower Maharashtra, North Karnataka, that area. Dattatreya is very common in that area. But what a lot of people don't know about it is in Valmiki Ramayana there is a section called the Sita Anasuya Samvad, wherein when Ramchandra and Sita Devi were wandering in the forest, when they came across at Chitrakoot, they came across Atri Muni. And so, while Ramchandra was conversing with the sage, his wife, Sita Devi, was conversing with Anasuya Devi. And so Sita Devi fell at the feet of Anasuya Devi to request that how I can serve my husband in the best way. And so Anasuya Devi spoke to her about Sri Dharma, about the essence of the religious principles of a lady, in very eloquent ways. And I was looking for it again, I couldn't find it. I had sent it to somebody by email. And what it was an 18th century rendition by some Scottish poet who took Valmiki Sanskrit and he put the translation into a prose, an English prose, to try to complement the style of Valmiki Sanskrit. Did a good job, to tell you frankly. Did a really nice job. I remember I liked it so much that I patched it to a few female Sanskritists that I knew. That people, it doesn't matter what gender, when they like shlokas, they like them, you know. They don't care. And if something's right up their alley, if it happens to be, very Vedic, very solid about their dharma, they like it. I remember there was one Russian, I mentioned it casually in a class once, and some Russian girl had asked me for it. So I patched it. At that time it was easy, but for some reason I couldn't find it. I'll have to look again a little bit deeper to try to find the exact same document again. By pulling a couple of words from that email attachment and digging it out. But it was very interesting about how Anasuya was congratulating Sita Devi for her marriage with Ramchandra and said it was extraordinary and said that her contribution to society was indeed extraordinary. The name of Sita Thakurani basically refers to her coolness. She was smart, she was cool, and she was comforting, and she was a goddess of fortune, Her children were Lava and Kush, who became great kings in themselves. And Ramchandra had divided his kingdom at the end into upper and lower Koshal and gave it to each of his sons before he left. Sita Devi's departure is like amazing. How she left, she prayed to the Bhumi Devi, and she entered, and Bhumi Devi appeared on a Sinhasan. And Sita Devi sat next to her, and then they went into below the earth. The place is in Bihar. It's called Sita Marhi, and it's a famous holy place. And after that, Ramchandra observed strict brahmacharya and lamentation from his wife, and like that for the rest of his days. It's very interesting. And that section, Sita Navami, like that, when Sita Navami comes around, I always read that section of, and it's very mysterious, that section of Ramayana, how Sita Devi desired to leave this world in separation from her husband. And it's a very interesting thing and very bewildering. The activities of the Supreme Lord and his consort are most amazing and exemplary in all respects, because Ramchandra is the Yasha, is the famous manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why am I saying this? Because the whole thing about it is that the essence of street dharma is to protect religious principles. So when you're actually absorbed in religious principles, you're actually absorbed in the katha, those that uphold the religious principles, then you become similarly infused. That's the idea. Another, they're famous, they've been famous ladies in societies that uphold religious principles. Another famous one was a Kshatriya lady named the Rani of Jhansi. She was powerful. When her husband died, then she became the queen, and she literally took up the work of her husband in most amazing ways. And she literally drove the British to a standstill. The British had to, I can't read that. The British literally well, she drove them to a big standstill, but eventually the British killed her. But she's still famous in that area like anything, even now. Her fame has just not gone away. She was extremely determined. And there's others. There was some Rajasthani Rani, her name was Padmini. She was also very intense. Of course, in the Mahabharata, famous one was Panchali, Draupadi. She was a goddess of fortune, and she was Draupadi's daughter, and she appeared for the annihilation of the Kshatriya race, annihilation of Duryodhana and evil influences. Literally, they offended her. They offended her chastity, and she had a statement that I'm not going to tie my hair until I get the blood of these rascals who have offended me, like that. And Bhimsen was always pushed by his wife Draupadi to do the evil. Panchali was a Punjabi girl, and she was a daughter of Draupadi. From the 5 areas, Panchali was referring to the 5 rivers that flow through that province. And she was indeed intense. She was dharmic. And also another aspect of it is that she had a benediction that as long as she hadn't taken her meal that day, any person who came, atiti, any unannounced person who came, she could give them reception and food. So, Duryodhana, the Chalaramacharya as he was, when somebody in Hindi they say Chalu, it means he's very tricky. But Chalaramacharya is something different. He's the teacher, the guru of tricky people. It's more than just tricky, more than just cunning. Very exceptional. So, Duryodhana sent Durvasa Muni and along with his disciples to Maharaj Yudhisthira in the forest at a time when surely Draupadi would have finished her meal in the afternoon. So Yudhishthira Maharaj had promised Durvasa Muni that, yes, you, my dear sages, you go take care of that, and you come back and everything will be all right. We'll provide something for you. And in the meantime, Draupadi was in tears that this sage, Durvasa, is very intense, you know? And so, if I don't have anything to give him, then he's going to burn my whole family, along with all our opulences, to ashes. And that was Duryodhana's idea, to make the curse of the sage fall on the head of Yudhishthira and everyone else. And so she was in tears. What am I supposed to do? So she was remembering her Lord Krishna, what to do. And so Lord Krishna came there, because he's the dispeller of the grief of his devotees, and says, hey, I've come. So, do you have anything for me? And she was lamenting, oh, I've eaten my meal, there's nothing to give you, and I'm worried about this age, and I don't know what to do. And he was, oh, my dear daughter, don't you worry about a thing, you know, is there anything there left? So they found some piece of vegetable that was on the side of the pot, you know, and Krishna took that and became satisfied. Well, yasmin digete sarvamevam digetam bhavanti. If Krishna becomes satisfied, the knowledge that gives Krishna, then other subordinate knowledge becomes automatically understood. So as soon as yasmin tushte jagat tushto, if Krishna is satisfied, the whole universe becomes satisfied. So when Krishna became satisfied by just taking one little tiny morsel of vegetable from the side of the pot, then immediately all the sages that were in the water, all of a sudden they felt full. And he said, gee, our bellies are full, and we don't feel like eating nothing, you know. At the same time, she must have done a whole, you know, knocked out a whole, you know, big course feast. And if we don't eat that, they're not going to be very happy. So better we don't show our face. So they disappeared, you know. They made themselves scarce. And Draupadi Draupadi's honor and prestige was saved by the grace of Lord Krishna. So another aspect of it is, when Draupadi was going to be insulted by Dushasana in the Asat Sabhaya, the assembly of uncultured men, then she called out, hey Govinda! And it's stated in the Shastras that because she's called out to me so plaintively, I am very much indebted to her. So it doesn't matter. Gender in that sense doesn't matter when it comes to calling out for Krishna. As Narottam Thakur Mahasai says in Prema Bhakti Chandrika, that Grihe Bhavane Take, Ha Gauranga Boli Take, Narottama Mogitara Sam. It doesn't matter whether you are living in the forest or you are living as a householder. Well, 99.9% of ladies do get married, and 99.9% of ladies are in household life as a result. Even if they're widows, even if they're in old age, like that. They're under the protection of their sons, or under protection of society, like that. They're still considered a grihini. Now, griham grihamityahu, grihini grihamochate. A man does not have a house until he has a wife. Now, griham, there is no house. Grihamityahu, it is said to be a house. Grihini grihamochate. If there is a lady of the house, then you have a house. You have a room, but you don't have a house. When you have a wife, then you have a house. The Sanskrit aphorism says. So, she's the home minister, you know, and she basically takes charge of doing what has to be done. So, in the Vedic culture, it's like that, that they protect and they provide, and they give shelter, and in Indian culture, it was always the fact that the children spend less time with the father than they do with the mother. And the mother is the strongest personality for inculcating culture and intelligence to the child. Like if you notice that in Bombay, for example, there is Queen's Necklace, main highway that goes along the coast toward Colombo, toward the end of Bombay, where all the big industries and all the big offices are there, like that, Nariman Point, like that. So, along this highway, you'll have Srimati Kulab Devi municipal swimming pool, something. Her child donated something in the memory of his mother. Why? Because his mother pushed him to realize his potential. what he was. Out of gratefulness, they did that. My mother did a lot, like this. So mothers, by nature, they are meant to try to push. You want to know how to build your tendencies? The best thing is to take shelter of Tulsi Rani. I have to state it very clearly. Because she's Jagat Datri. She is the mother of the universe. You take shelter of her and earn her glories. Then following her footsteps will steel you for anything you have to do in your life. Because she's the Jagat Datri. She's the mother of the universe. There's nothing she cannot accomplish. There's no Leela of Krishna that she doesn't have her finger involved. She's Duti Variyasi, the best of messengers. And she's extremely partial to both Radha and Krishna, and she's not about to be divided by any of them in their lovers' quarrels or anything like that. She just rises above any partisanship at all. She loves them both, and that's the end of it. She's extremely diplomatic. She's also the wife of Shalagram Shila. So, and Krishna stated, and Radha Krishna Ujjvala Kusuma Keli, that Vrinda Devi is more charming than many gods of fortune as my chaste wife. If you don't believe it, you can ask her. The Dharma Shastra said that whatever belongs to the wife belongs to the husband. When you say this for us, Vrinda, meaning multitude, it means us too. Radharani got incensed at that. She said, Vrinda, is this true? You married this fellow? If you really married to this fellow, then you would blush red and you would run away from here. But you haven't. So she doubted the integrity of the statement, naturally. And she wanted Vrinda Devi to say something about it, to affirm it. And Vrinda just completely diplomatically sidestepped the issue. She says, oh Radha, the beauty of Vrindavan forest is manifested from the beauty of your lips. She said it like 10 shlokas, which is quoted in the 9th chapter of Govinda Lalamrita as well, in detail. And Radharani became so absorbed in that, she just totally forgot the argument. Which was evidently Vrinda Devi's plan all along, Vrinda Devi is very tactful. And in Vidagdha Madhava Natakam, when Krishna has to adopt a disguise as Gauri Devi to stop Abhimanyu's plans to take Radharani to Mathura, then Vrinda Devi is very much an accomplice. And Krishna asks her, Vrinda, you become my sister. She says, okay. And later on she did so. This is my sister. She was referring to Krishna, that this is my sister, the goddess of Bandirvan, Nikunja Vidya. Nikunja Vidya, the girl who gives knowledge of the forest. The goddess of Bandirvan. And all the other gopis, Padma, Shaibi, who had previously been associated with Krishna, with their master, with their Swamini Chandravali, Radharani's cousin, incidentally. Who is her? And Vrinda Devi goes, what? You don't know my sister? Nikunja Vidya? No, we never met her before. So Vrinda Devi was really cool. And Radharani goes there and they're expecting, Abhimanyu and Jyotila are expecting Radharani will beseech the goddess to give permission so that she can go to Mathura. Oh goddess, please be merciful. That what you want. It's not possible. Would. Jyotila goes, would. Tell her, Vrinda. So Vrinda Devi goes, 2 days from today, Kamsa will capture Abhimanyu, cut off his head and offer it to Bhairava. And Jyotila goes, oh, Radha, you must beseech the goddess. This should not happen. Oh goddess, I can't live without my Swami. Double language. Then, well, it is generally not possible, but her sweet language is so pleasing. It's so hard to say no. Under certain circumstances. Anything, Jyotila goes. She should every day come here to worship me. Yes, every day she'll come here and worship Gauri here, Gauri Tirtha. And she should not go to Mathura. We'll cancel the plans, do it in Mathura. So this was, and Vrinda Devi was a part of the whole drama. Vrinda Devi did many things to help Krishna in his pastimes in Vrindavan. And nothing blooms, nothing happens, nothing chirps. Her parrots are everywhere. So, her fingers are everywhere in Vrindavan. Her influence is everywhere. Dinabandhu, my godbrother, laughs. He says, Brenda Devi's got the best mobile coverage of Vrindavan. Her parents are everywhere. And it's wonderful. Now, if you want to know how to do your work, sadhu maraganu, sadvi maraganu gamanu. Follow in the footsteps of the great liberated personality. You're conditioned. You have a limit. All right, but still learn from them how they do it. Then you learn how to use your energy in a positive way. Feminine energy is extremely powerful. We have to use it for positive ends. You know? Of course, everybody has their anger. I have a friend, I have a godbrother of mine who's a Sanskrit pundit. And just like there was a shloka that from Hari Bhakti Vilas chapter 7, 279, that Murli Manohar just recently sent to me, about 2 different colors of tulsi, and referring to the Shama tulsi as a manifestation of Vrinda Devi's anger. And he said, how am I supposed to understand the shloka? And I said, well, my pundit godbrother said that every girl has got her Durga roop. her 8-arm form, you know. And it's funny, you know. It's not funny when you're on the receiving end of it, but it's definitely funny when you think about it, you know. At the same time, I said, oh, we'll have to see other Shastra Pramanams in different ways to understand more about Rama Tulsis and Krishna Tulsis, you know. There's some external things that I mentioned about characteristics about the Krishna Tulsis and the Rama Tulsis, you know. But regards that every personality has got their sweet side and got their heavy side, you know, and both should be for the good. That's the point. There is called therapeutic anger. It is anger that is therapeutic. It is not for destruction. It is for building, and it is for establishing. So anger would be there, is therapeutic when it actually has an end to cause good. Whether it be anger to your husband, anger to your child, anger to something, it is a positive anger, and it has to be done with a cool mind and sense controls. Therapeutic anger is possible only when there is a controlled mind. As Chanakya says in his Nitya Shastra, that if your mind and senses are controlled, your reputation follows you like your shadow. And if your mind and senses are not controlled, your reputation follows you like your shadow. So basically, ashrama, staying with devotees, means developing this sense of sthirata, determination, and steadiness. Sthai. So sthai bhava, the devotee's mood that is fixed in a fixed mood is only for those that are absorbed in Krishna very nicely. For that, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord is common. Now the next thing is that although you understand that your place in society is to protect it, to maintain it, and to encourage it, still, everyone is an Ayaram Gayaram and Ayarani Gayarani. It's a question of time. We'll all be kicked out of this body in due course of time. And the ladies are no exception. We're conditioned. We have this material body, we're going. So before we leave this body, then we have to develop perfection. That's the human form of life. So, what is that? That means that giving up any other contemplation, we obtain our relationship with Krishna. Mukti hitva anyata rupam swarapena vivastati. We obtain our relationship with Krishna. So, are you getting it? You look up in the mirror in the morning, and you look, and you wake up, and you have to ask yourself that question: how far am I progressing to get it? That's what human life is for. The other stuff, your job, paying for the bones, paying for the stuff and maintaining your life, with your husband, with your kids, that is transcendent. Of course, it's not to be neglected in one sense. And a dutiful householder lady is surely responsible to take care of her children and society to the best of her degree, but at the same time, there have to be a sense of detachment. It's called virakti. Virakti is basically meaning a healthy disgust with material existence. You don't get what you want, you get what you deserve. And when you don't get what you want, it should cause a healthy disgust that actually we don't belong in this material world. We don't belong here. When you don't get what you want, you get what you deserve. You get the husband you don't get the husband you want, you get the husband you deserve. You get the children, you don't get the children you want, you get the children you deserve. You don't get the job, the residence, the health, the wealth, nothing. You get exactly what you deserve, according to your karma. Therefore, a Vaishnavi becomes satisfied. No, it's my lot, my karma. Like that. Modern girls in the West that are not so educated, they want to rebel against their karma. And they want to change bodies. As my godbrother, Bhakti Swami, makes a wonderful joke. New Yorker. Nice joke. That the Tadihantara Prapti, obtaining another body, should not mean changing bodies from one husband to another husband, or one wife to another wife. And Dhiras Tatra Namuyati. The self-realized soldier should not be bewildered by such a change because it's Videshi Bhava. So it shouldn't be Videshi Bhava. Deshi Wala Videshi Bangaya with a Deshi Masala Sat. It shouldn't be like that. You know? Just because you're in British society like this, it doesn't mean that you have to give up the roots of Bharatiya Sanskriti Jivan, the mood of Vedic culture. No, it shouldn't. And be very careful. Look before you leave, because marriage should be once. You give your hand to one man, and that's the end of the story. That's the end of the story. That's Vedic culture. And, of course, there's going to be kalaha. That's understood. But it should be worked out with Vishnu in the center of everything. It should be worked out. You're never going to get exactly what you want. One devotee who was very expert in negotiating put it down, to boil down to 4 things. Communication. Keep the communication well. Keep straight open and keep communication open. Don't block communication channels. Don't hold in frustrations. You should communicate in such a way. And if you cannot communicate it, if somebody's a blockhead and they refuse to listen to what's going on, then in journalistic society they use sarcasm. Sarcasm is resorted to when frustration just builds up before it explodes. You know, sarcasm is a way to vent frustration. So, communication. Then you understand, by communicating, you understand what's doable. You can't get everything you want. What is doable? Let's get it done. That's the important thing, is not to just remain on the facetious plane, on a plane of hopes. What's doable? Let's get it done. So the next thing, to get it done, you're going to have to go 50-50. Let's get it done. What's doable? What's accomplishable? Let's get something done. So the next thing is called conciliation. Conciliation means, all right, look, let's bend a little bit. Let's be a little flexible. But you have your principles. I'm not going to bend here, you know, but I'm going to bend there. So you have to set out parameters. That this is conciliation means you're setting out parameters. That this is when I'm ready to concede. And this, I'm not going to concede. Right? These are my fixed positions. And you should have logic. You should look in the mirror. What the hell why? If you're rigid in some opinion, why? Why you should be rigid in your opinion? Why? You should have some logic. Because I'm a stubborn, bull, or other stubborn words, other words that we don't want to repeat, like that. Why should one be stubborn? There must be some reason, some logic, some common sense that's involved. If you have a strong opinion and you're not going to concede it, then analyze that. Why do I feel the way I am? Is it logical? Is it justifiable? Is it rational? Is it doable? Specifically, is it doable? Then that gives the grounds for negotiation, parameters for negotiation. Another thing is that you have to put yourself in their shoes. What does the opposite party want? What do they need? And what is their grounds? What is their priorities? You know? What is their position? And so you may not agree with their stance, but at least you should know what it is. You may not agree with their arguments, but at least you should know exactly what it is. So, being able to emphasize, emphatic, means to put yourself in the other person's shoes. It's a sensitive thing that allows you to communicate nicely with them. So it creates grounds for negotiation. Okay, let's talk about it. What is doable? Negotiate. You're narrowing parameters down that we're going to negotiate on these particular topics. And what is unsuitable or unacceptable is rejected. They're not even in the agenda. We are narrowing down the discussion to these topics. We agree, by mutual conversation, we're agreeing to narrow the agenda down to these topics. These are the parameters, these are the doable parameters. Now what are we going to get done? Okay, we got 50-50, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so okay, we're negotiating on what is doable. And what is not doable, they're out of the game. We're not even thinking about that. They're trashed. They were trashed during the second step, which is called conciliation. They boiled it down, they boiled the milk down, and they got the agenda, they got the topics down to what is doable. Okay? And we rejected what is not doable. Okay? Then, so that's called negotiation. And then from negotiation, there's stances that, all right, there are red lines. And if you don't cross your red line, then I promise you I will not cross mine. Red line disturb the relationship. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his Amritavani stated that when interpersonal relationships gives you pain, then look within. Castigate yourself within. It's not all your fault, but at the same time you may look at the root cause of the conflict and say, do I have a fault here that has to be addressed? See, that I may improve, am I contributing? Because if you're not contributing to the solution, you're contributing to the problem. So how am I contributing to the problem here? That has to be analyzed. Okay? It's not all, may not be all your fault, but neither is it their fault either. You know? Why is it happening to you? Because you have to learn to grow. It's happening to you. Durga, Krishna, your karma. Why is it happening to you? For it's an opportunity for me to grow. A Vaishnavi takes obstacles. A Vaishnavi, or devotee in general, takes obstacles and turns it into opportunities. Hey, there's an opportunity to grow from this weird situation. You know, we're going to learn something positive to grow from this weird situation. That's the idea. So the next thing is, we have established red lines. These are red lines. Then I don't want to blow your mind, and you don't want to blow my mind. So therefore, these are red lines. We're not going to step over that. They're parameters for behavior. And if you step over that line, then it becomes very bad. You know, it becomes unacceptable. Then, and there's a limit to what one can tolerate in this world. Even if there was something was unacceptable in Vedic culture, there was still no divorce. One would separate for some time and again go back. Because the good qualities of a human being is missed when they are not present. So, separation was sometimes necessary to make a reputation stronger. Like that. Sometimes the short-term or long-term separation, but divorce was never considered in Vedic culture. Because if you accept another spouse in the presence of your living child, then that spouse becomes, in the Vedic culture, becomes a shatru, becomes an enemy of your child. That's the idea. And even in modern days, the step-parent just really doesn't have the same affection for your kids as they did. So it's very strange. Divorce and stuff like that, it actually really turns the kids into a mess. Just like scrambles their brains. It's a mess. And some of them, it's specific, if the child is elderly, then it just like weighs on their head like a brick. They never can, if your father divorces the mother or something like that, they can never forgive that for the rest of their life. They just cannot accept it. It's very difficult. So therefore, in Indian culture, you should not. You should look before you leap. Before you get married, you make sure this is solid for life in all respects. Basically, like I said, and then from all this talk becomes cooperation. That's the fourth category. Communication, conciliation, negotiation, cooperation. I agree. And this way, this is a mutual devotional respect. You don't get what you want, you get what you deserve. So it's the same thing. Huh? You actually, but now let's go to the next stage. I mentioned it. The next stage is mumukshvi, to go for liberation. Relationship should not hold you to this material world. That's what congregational means. As much as we're Krishna conscious of Vishnu, conscious of Tulsi, like that, then we'll go toward liberation. Because Vrinda Devi, she is Moksha Devi. She gives liberation. And she gives you, she's amazing actually. She'll grab anybody, purify them, give them Vishnu, and make the whole world into Vaikuntha. That's her business. And she's so powerful. Recently I was seeing, there's from the Brahmanda Purana, there's even a Tulsi Kavacha, an armor, that by approaching her for protection. In Sanskrit it mentions that she protects, how she protects. Evidently this Kavacha is a part of it. We'll see more if I find some more Shastra Pramanams later on, if she agrees. She may reveal more. But it's very powerful stuff. This gives an idea, although we are limited in our capacity, then we have to follow the great, because in Indian culture, a wife was referred to as Devi. She's a goddess. She's the goddess of the house. And she's supposed to be very saintly and holy. And so her Prabhu, her Lord, should refer to her as Devi. That's Indian culture. Most of the time, he's not going to address her by her name. And a devoted wife will not address the husband by his name. She can acknowledge her husband's name. You phone the phone, where in the hell is XYZ? And she would say, Prabhu is not here. For her husband always remains Prabhu. And the wife always remains Devi. They know her name. She knows his name, but they're not using the first names. They're using the divine appellation. Because they're keeping the relationship healthy by referring to exactly who they should be in Indian culture. They're going beyond the name, because the name is external. The name is Antavad, as the body is Antavad. But the Bhava, that should remain. That goes beyond. Does it go beyond a death? Rarely. But it can. How? That is actually what in Shastra, in Padma Purana, there's a wonderful samvad, conversation called Shiva Parvati Samvad, where Parvati Devi is asking very pointed questions to her Lord Shiva, and she gets away with murder. In journalistic terminology, she really gets away with murder. She is extremely delicate and extremely respectful, but she says the most outlandish things. She asks the most outlandish questions. They're shocking. How could she get away with it? But she does it so respectful and so sweet. And Lord Shiva just takes it as a very sincere question, and he answers it. And she asks the most provocative thing, How could she say that? And what's he going to say next? It's like, you cannot put it down. When you read that section, you cannot put it down. It just grabs your attention in the most amazing ways, And she asks the most wonderful questions. And Lord Shiva gives the most amazing answers right there, And you wonder, would any other student be able to say such an outlandish thing and get away with it? But it gives a light of how one's intimate relationship with one's husband should be, ultimately, in private. the focus should be on Krishna. It means that actually it's such a beautiful sensitivity in Vedic culture that the Krishna or Gauranga that your husband seeks is given by you in such intelligent and wonderful ways that you've literally captured the heart of your husband by Harikatha. This is what it means to be a sadhvi, one who lives properly. It's more than just being a sadhvi. It's giving Krishna. Actually changing the heart of who you live with by Harikatha. That is big. And in reciprocation, then they have to give you something. It's dadati pratigrinati. That means that the Krishna and Gauranga that you cherish, that you're constantly, because you can't suppress it. It may be apakve, it may be unripe, it may take a long time because there's so much conditioning that's covering it. But you cannot escape from it. When you're attached to a particular style of service of Krishna and Gauranga, then that is a fact. And when somebody knows that, it's like a night and day, they can touch it. And you'll be awake to it. Night and day, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what time. If it's actually the Krishna and Gauranga that you hanker for, night and day, anybody could bother you for it, and you wouldn't, and your mind would dance. Then it must be a fact. That's the idea. So sensitivity means then that your husband would try to give you that very same thing that you hanker. That goes beyond mundane relationship. That will take you beyond the body. That's for liberation. Yes. And that's actually Vedic culture. Because 99% of people stay in Grihastha life, even in renounced life, when they're old, when the kids are married and gone, and like that. But still, the business is there. You've got 20 years, 30 years of left before your body is finished. Business is to liberate. You must never forget that. Remember, God's sister, she just recently left her body herself this year, a couple years ago. Maybe last year, maybe this year, early this year. Years ago, she helped her husband leave this world in Vrindavan. And I was there. She helped her husband chant Hare Krishna at the very end and leave his body in Vrindavan. Very wonderful. And herself, she left her body in Texas where she was, surrounded by kirtan with different devotees, and very happily she left her body, absorbed in the Krishna kirtan. Very nice. But that is actually, I really liked it, because she stood. You know, somebody you may have many conditioned faults. Everybody's a little crazy in this material world, you know, but still, it's really sensitive to try to go beyond it. But what is our responsibility despite the conditionings of life? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what conditionings are stymieing your advancement. We're meant to slice through all of that and have attachment for the Hare Krishna mantra and go back to Krishna. That we have to give up to the last second when the life is leaving the body. That is one of the biggest jobs of a wife, is to help her husband get liberation at the end. And vice versa. If suppose, like I have a god sister who left her body in Vrindavan, she had a uterine cancer, and she was trying to get rid of it by naturopathic means. It was a very highly aggressive cancer. Her friends asked her, when are you coming back to Vrindavan? She says, well, if I shake this cancer, then I'll be back in 6 months. And if I don't shake this cancer, I'll be back in 6 months. That's exactly what happened. So when she left her body in Vrindavan, her husband really worked hard to cause so many different caretakers to come for her wife's care. And the children were there. And the children were very, very respectful. They didn't do anything to deviate their mother's consciousness of Krishna at the very end. But they were very noble, and they did a lot of nice things. Oh, she left wonderfully. My god sister, who was a registered nurse, and she's part of Vaishnava's care. And like that, she said, we had 3 senior god sisters were serving as caretakers for her. And you know, because when somebody's dying of some terminal illness, you know, it's a big job to be their caretaker. You know, it's like you're throwing away your personal life for 2, 3, 4 weeks, month, whatever it is. In this case, she had 3 caretakers because they had to take shifts, you know. And you have to have your, you know, your downtime. You got to take bath. You got to take prasadam. You got to catch your rest. You know, you got to see. So they had 3 different caretakers, but at the end, they were all there. They were unable to remove themselves, so they were all there. And literally, after my god sister left her body, this god sister wrote me an email. He said, it was wonderful. She was such a great devotee. She was such a wonderful devotee that as if the ether opened up, the sky opened up to invite that Vaishnavi back to the spiritual world. And the room was all of a sudden very thick with very subtle personalities who had come to greet her and escort her. He says, and after that, after her departure, I remember I felt sick with malaria. For like 12 days I was on my back. I couldn't move, she said. Then after 12 days I got a little better and I changed my ticket and I went back to Philadelphia to be with my husband. She told me like that. She sent me some email about it. But it's pretty remarkable. So, it was an example. And this god sister had all praises for her husband. It was so... I remember, I was in Hawaii. Her husband had this business, an extremely, had some real estate business. That was external. He was doing most of the budget, and her son also, you know, they're chanting like. They used to get up in the morning, husband and wife used to get up about 2 o'clock in the morning, and her husband used to tell her, not a word is said until we finish our rounds. They were chanting a lakh a day, every day. Couldn't you imagine? It's 57 rounds, 57.8 rounds a day. And they did it before 8 o'clock in the morning. Husband and wife. They did it for years. You can't imagine how shiny. You know, and he's so detached from the material world. You know, a couple of years ago, when I called him, I happened to be on the Big Island or something. I wanted to see him. So I called. And his wife is still using the answering service. You know the answering phone? You know, in America, they get an answering phone. And, you know, well, we're not home right now. Leave your name and number. We'll call you never. You know? And she left her body 3 years before that. She's still answering the phone. Her voice is still answering the phone. Maybe her husband just wanted it that way, you know, so that they would never forget his wife, you know, the home minister, like that. Never forget her, even in her departure. They actually literally shape people. But the important thing is to go for vimoksha. How is our relationship pushing us to go back to home, back to Godhead? And that is the essence of the Dharma. Oye ishtam yatam punar janmanchayaya. Are you making advancement to become deathless? That is the essence of it. We have to keep that focus. The body will come and go as it is. And the body, sicknesses and health and so many things. And another aspect of the home minister, of course, is to minister, to help the health. I remember one girl asked me, you know, can we use Tulsi for medicine for our children? And I said, do you worship Shalagram? She said, no. I said, well, there's the problem. There's the problem. When you consider your daily fighting, you know, the onslaughts of material energy for your children, your family, again, huh? When you consider the time it takes to worship Shalagram, or the time, something like that, half an hour, 1 hour a day, and you're drinking this Vishnu Charanamrita, laced with Tulsi. Where's your diseases? When you consider that investment, that if your family drinks Charanamrita, laced with Tulsi, then your diseases are history. Yeah, the amount of time you spend fighting diseases externally, if you devoted that much time to worshiping Vishnu, then probably more than even now. The reality is Lord Vishnu takes care of us a lot more than we take care of him. He's in our heart 24/7, and he's taking care of us in exchange for our stupid service, which is very insignificant in comparison. As Prabhupada said, you take one step toward him, he takes 10 steps toward you. That's actually the fact. So she does a lot. Vrindarani does an awful lot. If you take shelter of her, she'll help you become the home minister you really have to be. You know, the gracious hostess, the gracious person you have to be. And that's very good for human society. And it'll be good for your preaching, it's good for your everything that you have to do. I was also commenting to the Sankirtan leader here in the temple, like that. And I was commenting a couple of things for improvement. One thing was this outreach. The mode of a devotee is to outreach, to try to touch people and make a permanent attraction. My god sister, Daivi Shakti, is an example of that. She made Devamrita Maharaj a devotee. She made Chandravali Swami a devotee. She made about 34 senior devotees. Why? Because her bhava was that every single day I'm going to meet somebody and I'm going to soak them. I'm going to make them a devotee of Krishna every day. That was her bhava. And she did it. By Gauranga's kindness, she really did it sometimes. You know, she found some sweetie pie, she soaked them and made them a devotee of Krishna, you know, literally. So that was another thing. Another aspect of it, naturally, if you're a wife, you have children, because putrahina griham shunyam, without children, your household life is basically useless, basically zero. Shunyam means zero. So, children are there. It's a byproduct of household life. And they never exactly become a devotee, but they'll become a burglar. They'll pick your pocket, that's guaranteed, you know? So, but still, in Indian culture, the kids have a very nice role that they can do for preaching. And I mentioned it, like, if the kids passed out the cookies or the peanuts and raisins in the Harinam, who is going to reject, you know, a cookie handed out by some sweet little boy or a little girl? They just, human society, you've got to be a real dog and a cat to not accept a cookie from a kid. It just doesn't work, you know. And the ladies, they got their backpacks full of extras. When those kids' baskets get full, because kids are not very strong, huh? They can't hold so much, you know. So when their baskets start to run down, you fill it back up. keep those scrappers busy, you know, passing out those cookies, you know, cookies and peanuts and raisins to the end of the Harinam. Yeah, you know. And Saturday night Harinam was big. It's a big way for all the congregational members to feel attached to Radhalandanishwara. If Radhalandanishwara, the people are not going to come see their deities. The deities are going to go to them, and we're going to help them. You know, their prasadam is going to go to everybody, and my kid is going to be part of it. You know, you have to think about that because, of course, okay, the kids got to do their homework now. Examinations are coming up, but what about the examination of Deb? What about Dad? You know, your kid has got to pass that final examination. So, even if exams are coming up, you know, still the kid should work his homework in such a way that it doesn't interfere with the Saturday night Harinam. You know, you're there. Be there or be square. You're going to be there. You know? And in this way, you can be proud of your kid. That my kid is a devotee because at least they do this much. You know, at least they chant Hare Krishna sometime. And they pass out prasadam. Otherwise, things are pretty useless in life. And if there's any pain, I remember, suppose your kid doesn't turn out the way you'd like it, which is typical. Mostly like 99% of the time, your kid is not going to come out the way you wanted it. Would, you know, for your virakti, for your detachment, you know, that's wonderful. You want to hear something heavy? You can invite Radha Kund Mata to come there. She was pretty far out. I asked her once, one of her daughters is in Leicester, the smartest of her kids, in her opinion, is in Leicester. I'm going to go see him later. I promised them. I will. And once I saw my god sister in Vrindavan, Ma, how's your kids? They are what they are. Tells you everything. Then, which ones are you proud of? 2. One of them's in Melbourne, and one of them's in Leicester. All right. Once she says, you think my kids are Krishna conscious? Man, they probably channel in 1 or 2 rounds a day. When I reflected on my entire household life, I think it was Björta. That is intense. Björta. You know, when my god sister said it to me, I was like, that is intense. And then she qualified. She says, well, you know, it was my karma. You know, I had to go through it. But in retrospect, I'm not letting it stop me. She's very blissful. Even now, you'll find her out by Prabhupada Samadhi, passing out books and talking to people. She's very, very ebullient. And in her renounced, in her Vanaprastha days, she's living in a very wonderful preaching mood. That is a very good instruction, how people should do it, how people should do that. This is also a very good instruction for all of you. When you become 50, 60, you got 20, 30 years of your life left. You can use it for good, to help other people. Something that your kids will always know. If I need to get a hold of my mother is going to be here and preaching, you know, to help other people become Krishna conscious. You know? And that is a very good thing to give the younger generation. Huh? It's like detachment. She said to me, it's vairagya, we have to be detached. You don't get what you want, you get what you deserve. And after it's done, you know, just throw your hands. Hey, think my past. You know? Trying to love Lord Krishna and forgive. You know? So vairagya is like that. I have to show that vairagya. And it's very good. And it's also another quality that all of you will have to show. So we want to congratulate you for all your hard work and in all respects. And you can always improve it. Just look in the mirror and try to analyze it. Human life is meant for liberation. Am I getting it? How am I getting it? Or how should I advance it? This way you can always try to keep a diary, try to improve, you know, over what you did yesterday for the purpose of liberation. Then you'll make advancement. And that goes beyond the body, beyond the conditionings, beyond the gender. It goes beyond. Your eternal religion shall be Krishna and Guru. Thank you very much. I go. Nice to address all of you. Keep the holy name in your tongue and worship Tulsi Rani. Everything else is stolen at the time of death. So, is there any questions or comments on anything that I've spoken? Yes?
Please, could you explain to us the difference between where Sridham fits in the picture of Dharma on the one side and Sanskrit and religion on the other side in English? Because we have to translate things into our daily lives, and it would be nice to have a really clear picture of how Sri Dharma fits into the whole Dharma religion kind of definition.
How does Sri Dharma fit? You have to explore it. Just like if you email me, I can hand you that thing from the Scott. The whole thing, how does it fit? It is a cultural thing. The idea of it is by analyzing the strict Indian tradition about street dharma, then it's a melding of your character. You're learning Sattvi Marganugamano. You're following from Sita Devi. You're following Savitri. You're following, Draupadi. You're following different historical personalities. It's not just simply for going through one ear and out the other. It's meant to mold your character. When the going gets rough, the rough get going. It's supposed to help you focus sweetly. How to focus sweetly. So but how are you going to focus sweetly? You have to understand it. When you understand it, when you take something significant and you understand it, then you can apply it. If you can't understand it, then you won't be able to apply it. So the idea of street dharma, like anything else, is something that you have to evolve. Just like it's synonyms and antonyms. Look at Google. They have a joke that if you haven't seen your sister in 40 years, if you Google for her, you'll find her on Facebook somewhere. Bottom line is you can Google for any damn thing. You know what I mean? You just have to use different synonyms, antonyms. Sound right, you know? And you can get different ideas. Ask your friends, what do you think about